In today's video, we have some NHL trade rumors to discuss, including the latest on wingers Artemi Panarin and Max Pacioretty. We're going to discuss the Vegas Golden Knights and how they might react to Nate Schmidt's suspension. We also have some signings to discuss for the Winnipeg Jets and the Washington Capitals. All that coming up next. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We review and discuss all 31 NHL teams, so if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. So as I mentioned off the top, today we have some updated trade rumors and signings to discuss, but first of all, I just want to say it's great to be back here making new content. Everything you've been watching over the past 4 days was pre-recorded, as the past 4 days I've been away on holidays visiting the city of Boston. I just want to give a quick shout out here to a BNG Hockey. You've seen him here during our Bruins video on the Bruins Prospects. Great hockey channel. You definitely want to check him out if you haven't already. He gave me some great recommendations on things to do while visiting Boston. Everything turned out great. We had a great time. But maybe we'll discuss that a little bit further in another video. But I just wanted to mention it's great to be back here. So let's jump into today's content. So let's jump in here and talk about the signings first. We'll talk about the NHL trade rumors here momentarily. Now, the Winnipeg Jets have announced a little while ago that they have come to terms on a pretty significant extension, extending captain Blake Wheeler for an extra 5 years at a cap hit of $8.25 million. So obviously Blake Wheeler was entering the final year of his current deal, was set to become a pending UFA next season. Now that will not be. They've got their captain locked up for 5 more years. Now obviously Blake Wheeler's been one of the more productive right wingers in the game over the past few years. He's formed quite the dynamic duo with Mark Scheifele as well. So obviously that's a great 1-2 punch there in their top line. So that's a good deal in my opinion that they got him locked up for a long term here. Blake Wheeler will be 33 years old when this deal kicks in, so I figured if they did do an extension, I'm not surprised it's not any longer than this. Obviously, I didn't expect a 7 or 8 year deal given the age of the effective here when the deal starts. But like I said, Blake Wheeler's been an incredibly important piece for the Jets. He's their captain. He's a heart and soul type of player. He's incredibly productive the past few years. He's been very important for Mark Scheifele in that top line and that 1-2 punch that they formed there. So personally, I really like this deal for Winnipeg. Blake Wheeler's been able to keep himself relatively healthy. He's a player that's known for being in incredibly good physical shape as well. So this type of deal for a player like him does not bother me going so late into his 30s. Obviously, where it's a 5-year deal, he'll be 33 when it kicks in, so he'll be 38 when the deal comes to an expiry here. So overall here, I like this deal for the Winnipeg Jets. They've got a lot of other contracts here to look after for next season and beyond. They got some youngsters that are going to need big raises. They're still working on getting some other players like RFA defenseman Josh Morrissey locked up. You know, obviously they only come to a 1-year deal with Jacob Trouba this summer as well, so they got to work on him if they're going to retain him longer term. So they got a lot of work to do getting their captain looked after first and foremost. Obviously was, you know, a top priority for the Winnipeg Jets, which is understandably so. So personally, I really like this signing for the Jets. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this contract here between the Jets and right winger Blake Wheeler. The Washington Capitals also made a signing here over the weekend as well, announcing that they've signed forward Sergei Shumakov, who's been playing over in the KHL. Now, Shumakov was never drafted by an NHL club. He's 26 years old. He has been relatively productive in the KHL over the past couple of years. Over there, he's put up 77 points in his last 101 games over the past 2 seasons. So obviously he has some offensive abilities for sure. It's not yet totally clear exactly if he'll make the Capitals or end up in the AHL. I guess training camp will determine where he goes from here. The contract is structured at $925,000. There obviously are some incentive bonuses in there as well. Depending on if he makes the NHL club and performs at a certain level, he can earn more than the $925,000, but that is his base salary and his cap hit. There is a possibility, it wouldn't completely shock me if he ends up spending at least some time in the American Hockey League, but I guess we'll see how well his game translates over from the KHL to the NHL once training camp gets underway, see how he looks in the preseason and go from there. But overall, this is a pretty decent signing for the Capitals, pretty low risk. It's only a 1-year deal. There had been rumored earlier in the offseason that he was going to be coming over to the NHL, and there was a few teams looking at him. I know we mentioned this player once before, and the other team that was apparently interested was the New York Rangers as well. But obviously he ends up signing with the Capitals, so we'll see if he can have an impact on that team. Obviously they've had a lot of success with Russian players, so obviously he'll fit in quite well there with that group. Having lots of other older Russian players to kind of guide him along and be mentors for him. So we'll see how that works out. But overall, a pretty decent signing, I think, for the Capitals. Then let's jump over to some of the latest NHL trade rumors. Now, a lot has gone down the past 4 to 5 days here while I've been away. So some of this information you may have already come across or may have heard from other sources. But I just want to kind of get everybody caught up in case you haven't been reading or paying attention to a lot of this other information here. Now, obviously, things with Montreal Canadiens captain Max Pacioretty got even more complicated. The last time I talked about Pacioretty on this channel here was when he had his charity golf tournament in Montreal. Obviously, General Manager Marc Bergevin, owner Jeff Molson, some of the coaching staff did show up at that golf tournament, and things were incredibly awkward. So that's where we kind of last left the Pacioretty saga here. But right after that, the next day, I believe it was, on Twitter, his new agent, Alan Walsh, went on a bit of a Twitter tirade going off about how Max Pacioretty is ready to sign a big-time extension with Montreal right now, today. They've not received an offer. Max Pacioretty's always been a stand-up guy. He's always going to take the high road. You might have seen bits and pieces about Walsh going off there on Twitter regarding his client and Montreal Canadiens captain Max Pacioretty. I did come across another article after that Twitter tirade over the weekend here that I found interesting. I will link it down below in the description though, although I will warn you, if you don't speak French, you may have a hard time reading it, or you may want to find like a Google translator or something to translate it to English or whatever language you speak. But it was from Le Journal de Montréal, from Collins Yvon Pedneau, kind of basically going on that Max Pacioretty, it was rumored that he had requested a trade in the past, and it was speculated in this article that last year he did tell owner Jeff Molson that he thought it might be best if the team traded him. And apparently this had come after Marc Bergevin had actually told him to his face that he was going to trade him. So obviously, things in Pacioretty, and it just keeps getting more of a circus all the time. Anytime you hear the name or more of the situation in the news or any kind of articles, it just keeps getting more crazy by the day here. So my question to you is, can the Montreal Canadiens really go into training camp with their captain and this media circus around Pacioretty? Is this not going to be a huge distraction? So could we potentially here see a trade from Montreal finally unloading Pacioretty before training camps get underway? Now we're into September, August is long gone. We're not that far away from training camps opening up here. So could we see something go down here in the coming days? As we know, there's still a handful of teams out there that could potentially make this type of deal. The teams, many of them that we talked about before that were interested in Pacioretty, likely are not in a situation to make this deal anymore. Like, you could probably rule out teams like the Florida Panthers or the Los Angeles Kings. I mean, there's still other teams out there like the Sharks, for example. But I would assume that Marc Bergevin is either going to have to do one of two things here. He's either going to have to take a significantly less return than he was expecting, or Pacioretty's going to have to agree to terms on a contract with whatever team he's traded to in order to actually get a decent return. And at this point in time, that's completely in Pacioretty's control. He does not have to agree to a new contract with any particular team. He very well may prefer to be traded as a one-year deal, go into free agency and kind of sort this all out on his own to determine his own future here. Now let's jump over here and talk about Artemi Panarin here. I just want to give a reminder to everybody that earlier in the offseason we discovered that Artemi Panarin had kind of put a self-imposed deadline of September the 13th as a date that he's no longer willing to talk on the business side of the game with the Columbus Blue Jackets regarding contract and whatnot. Obviously, that date is only 9 days from now. That's when training camp gets underway here for the Columbus Blue Jackets. So could we see something happen between now and then? It doesn't leave a lot of time. The latest article I was reading on Panarin and his situation with the Blue Jackets come from The Athletic and a reports line, and he still continues to reiterate here that Panarin does have a list of preferred destinations. Some of the teams that are apparently on this list are the New York Rangers, the New York Islanders. I've seen mention of the Dallas Stars amongst others. So who is going to land Panarin? Obviously, I wouldn't completely rule out the Chicago Blackhawks, but that's likely would only happen via free agency if he makes it that far. So we'll see what happens here. But with that self-imposed deadline coming up, could we possibly see a deal with the Blue Jackets shipping Panarin out? Personally, I don't think it's very likely. I think they're going to hang on to him as long as they can, try to get him signed, and if things aren't either going well during the season, maybe we could see a trade deadline deal. But if things are going well for Columbus, then this very well could carry on into next season. But my question to you on the Panarin situation is he going into training camp? Is this deadline going to come and go? And will this Panarin situation drag on throughout the year and either be settled at the NHL trade deadline or next offseason? Now, next up, I want to jump over and talk about the Vegas Golden Knights and their situation that they're facing now with one of their top defensemen, Nate Schmidt, being out for 20 games. Now, obviously, I am going to be doing a dedicated video discussing that suspension, which will be out a little bit later today, so I'll give you my full thoughts on that situation here later today, as I mentioned here. But for right now, I just want to discuss the trade rumor side of things and how Vegas might react to this deal where he's not going to be available now for 20 games. In my opinion, they could very well push harder to make a trade for another defenseman. Obviously, as we know, they were hard after Erik Karlsson before. Karlsson's still an Ottawa Senator. That trade has never materialized, never happened. Could they push even harder to make it happen? To be honest, it is possible, but it's not like Schmidt's gone for the season. It's not like, something happened and he's completely gone off the team here. So obviously, 20 games is a long stretch. It's no different than reacting to an injury or anything else when a player's not available to play. Regardless, I don't see them making a complete knee-jerk reaction here and jeopardizing their future over one player. Yes, he is an important player, but I don't see them making a blockbuster move just because of that. Now, another situation along with the Schmidt suspension that is going to impact him here is Shea Theodore still remaining unsigned. There's only a number of days left here before training camp opens. At this point in time, he's not under contract. It is not clear at this point if he's not under contract, if he will report to camp or not. Obviously, without a contract, he can't be in an NHL game, but obviously he could be working out with the team in training through training camp. That's an optional thing. So if the Vegas Golden Knights have to open the season with Schmidt suspended and Theodore unsigned, that is a big blow, and I could see them kind of forcing their hand to make a move here to do something. Now, could they go after Erik Karlsson? It is certainly possible. If they did, I would think they'd probably be pushing to include Theodore if things are going to be that difficult to get him signed. Not sure how Ottawa would feel about that. Theodore is a young, promising defenseman for sure. Wouldn't be a complete shocker to see him involved. You throw in Theodore, maybe a first-round pick, one of their prize prospects like a Cody Glass or a Nick Suzuki. That would be my guess, that would be the asking price from Ottawa. And really, if Vegas were to offer that up, they probably would get the deal done, I would think, at this point in time, considering how long that situation's been dragging on. So my honest opinion here, I don't think we're going to see a knee-jerk reaction out of Vegas to make a big trade to replace Nate Schmidt. Obviously, he does play a big role. He eats up a lot of minutes, but I think we're going to see that much more of a push to get a guy like Shea Theodore signed. Should that fail, then that may force McPhee's hand to do something a little bit more drastic. So only time will tell here as we get closer to NHL training camps what actually goes down. But I don't think we're going to see a quick knee-jerk reaction here out of George McPhee. He doesn't seem to be that type of guy. He's got other things he can work on here rather than risk the team's future over a 20-game suspension. So again, a reminder, stay tuned for the Nate Schmidt suspension discussion coming up here later today. If you're new to the channel here, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams, and there's plenty of content here for all hockey fans to enjoy. So if you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We will catch you next time.